Hello everybody and welcome to another YouTube video. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a website in Python as fast as possible. Now we're going to be using the Flask module, which is a lightweight web framework for Python. This will show you pretty much everything you need to know to set up a relatively simple website. However, if you are looking for something more advanced, specifically something that has a database integration, I have a ton of other tutorials on this channel. I'll throw them up on the screen and link them in the description, so feel free to check out those after. I am going to talk extremely fast, and with that said, the first thing that you need to do is head over as fast as possible to check out our sponsor. Before we dive in, I need to thank Altium Designer for sponsoring this video. Altium Designer is the world's most trusted PCB design system that enables engineers to effortlessly connect with every facet of the electronics design process. Altium Designer has used 35 years of innovation and development to create a truly unified design environment that makes it the most used PCB design solution on the market. Altium Designer provides an intuitive and powerful interface that lets you design PCBs rapidly while interacting and collaborating with your mechanical designers. The interface provides a photorealistic 3D environment, collaboration and synchronization with tools including SolidWorks, PTC Creo, and Autodesk Inventor, realistic rigid flex designs, multi-board assembly, and much more. Altium Designer is the most popular ECAD tool and electronics design software, and you can get started with it today for free by pressing the link in the description and registering for a free trial. Thanks again to Altium Designer for sponsoring this video, and now let's dive in. Alright, so let's get going. As I warned you before, I'm going to go quite quickly, so feel free to slow down the video or pause if I'm going too fast for you. Anyways, I'm here in VS Code. I have Python installed. Any version of Python 3 will work for this. And the first thing I'm going to do is pip install Flask. Now, if this command does not work for you, I have 2 videos on my channel showing you how to fix it. Quickly, though, you can try python-m pip install Flask or python-m pip3 install Flask. And then finally, if that doesn't work, you can try python-3-m pip install Flask. Regardless, I already have Flask installed, so now we can start setting up our directory structure. So as I mentioned, Flask is a lightweight web framework for Python. This allows you to very quickly spin up a Python website, and it's super easy to do this. So the first thing that we're going to do is create a file. This file is going to be called app.py. Let me just zoom in a bit here so you guys can see this. We're then going to make another file called views.py. We're then going to make a folder called templates. We're going to make another folder, not inside of there, called static, and then that's all we need for right now. Now we're going to go inside of our app.py file. This will be the entry point for our Python website, and we're going to initialize Flask. So I'm going to say from Flask, import Flask with a capital F, and then what I'm going to do is create my Flask application. Whenever you create a Flask app, you say app equals Flask, and then underscore underscore name underscore underscore. This initializes the application, and then what you can do after this is run your app. So I can say if underscore underscore name underscore underscore equals main, then app.run debug equals true, and this is actually all you need to start running your Flask website. Now there is an optional argument here called port. You can tell Flask what port you want to run the website on. By default, it is port 8000, but you can change it to whatever you want. Or sorry, by default, it is port 5000, but you can change it to whatever. In this case, we'll go with 8000. Now let's just see what happens if we run this. So if I run my script, notice that if we give it a second here, it is running my Flask application. This is the URL that we would go to access the website. We don't have any roots right now, so we won't see anything, but this is where the website will be live. Now, the reason I put debug equals true here, because this will make it so that whenever you change any files inside of your Flask application, it will automatically refresh the app. So you don't have to keep rerunning this script unless you have any syntax errors or for some reason the script crashes. But regardless, if we make any changes, like if I just go like this and save, notice it says detected change, restarts, and we're good to go. All right, so now that we have initialized the app, we need to start creating some views or some roots. Now, roots are kind of the endpoint of the URL, so something like, say, /home that we can actually visit on our website. So I'm going to go to views.py. I'm going to say from Flask, import with a capital blueprint. And what we need to do is define a view blueprint. Now, we could very easily inside of this script say app.root, give the root that we want, and then say define, and let's just call this home. And then inside of here, we can return whatever it is that we want. So let's just say this is the home page. And this needs to be an @ sign, my bad. So it's the decorator. So you say @app.root you define the root, you return whatever it is you want to return from here. Usually this is HTML. In this case, I'm just returning a string. And now if I rerun my script here and I go to /, we will see this. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go to port 8000. And now notice it says this is the home page. So that is how you set up a root. However, I like to set up my roots in a separate file such that it doesn't clutter the kind of main initialization script. So what we do instead is we create a blueprint so we can put all of our roots in this file instead of this file. Anyways, the way you do this is the following. You say whatever the name of your file is, really you can name this whatever you want, is equal to blueprint. Then you're going to put the name of this blueprint. I just make it so it matches this variable name. It makes it easier. And then actually that's all you need to initialize the blueprint. Then what you can do is say and this will be views.root. And inside of here, you can define your root. So I'm going to do /, and then I'm going to say define home. And here I will just return home page like that. Okay, so now that we have created this blueprint, we need to link to the blueprint or register the blueprint from our Flask application. So I'm going to delete this root right here. And now right after I create my Flask app, I'm going to say app.register blueprint. And I'm going to put the name of my blueprint, which is going to be views, and then the URL_prefix, which is the prefix to access any of the views in this root. I'll explain that in a second. First, we need to import this views Python file. So we're going to say from views import views. What this will do is import this variable right here from our views file. So now we can register this blueprint, and we say the URL prefix is /. That means we are going to access all of the roots in here from /. Now, if I did something like /views, this would mean we would access this root here by typing /views. Now, to make this a bit more intuitive, if I said /home, and we'll just go home2 here, the way I would access this root, if the URL prefix is views, is /views/home. Hopefully that makes sense, but that's what the URL prefix means. Let's just delete this for now. Let's rerun the script. And we are missing one required positional argument name. All right, so the error I was having is I forgot to add an argument here, __name __. This is the first argument you have to pass to blueprint and then the name of the blueprint. My apologies about this. Don't worry about exactly how this works, but this is just how you define the blueprint. Anyways, now what I'm going to do is run this. Now remember that our URL prefix is /views. So if I want to access this root, I have to go to /views. So I'm going to go here and go to /views, and then notice it brings me to the home page. So that is the very basics of defining a root. Now, clearly, you probably want to return something that looks a little bit nicer than just a string from your root. So I'm going to show you how you can actually return an HTML document. So we need to go inside of our templates folder. It's very important you name this folder templates, and this is where you put all of your HTML templates. So just the HTML you want to render onto the screen. So go inside of this folder. Again, it has to be named templates. And then what you're going to do is make a new file. I'm going to call mine index.html. You can call yours whatever you want. So since I'm in VS Code here, there's actually a little shortcut I can use to generate a boilerplate HTML template. First, I need to make sure my language is changed to HTML, not Django HTML. I have a Django extension, so that's why it's doing that. So now if I type HTML:5 and hit tab, it will actually generate a boilerplate template for me. Anyways, I'm just going to change this to say home. Inside of the body, I'll put a div, and inside of the div, I'll put an h1 tag that just says home page. All right, so now let me show you how we actually render this page. The way that we do this is we go to views.py. We need to import from Flask render template. And now instead of returning a string, we return the render template and we put the name of our template. So I just put index.html, and now it will render this HTML template to the page when we go to this root. So if I go here and I refresh, notice now our HTML page is being rendered and we see home page. There you go. That is the basics of rendering HTML. Now, while we're talking about render template, the reason why this is called a template is because you can actually pass variables and values to the template that can then be rendered by it. For example, what I can do is the following. I can pass a keyword argument, let's say name, is equal to Tim right after I write index.html. You can write as many of these as you want, and I can actually access this variable inside of my template. So if I go to index.html, I can do, let's go with like a p tag here, and I can say hello, comma, and then if I use two squigglies like this, I call them squigglies, but squiggly brackets, and I write name, it will actually render name to the screen. So whatever the name is that I passed to this template, that is what will show up here. Whenever you're accessing a variable in the template, you use double squiggly brackets. Okay, so now let's go here and let's refresh, and notice it says hello Tim. If I go and I change this to say Joe and we rerun, it says hello Joe. That is how you pass values. You can also pass multiple values. So I could say, age equals 21. And then if I go here and say, hello, you are, and then age, we need another set of these, years old. And now if I run this, we get the age as well. All right, so I showed you how we can pass variables to the templates. Now, again, you access them with double squiggly brackets. Now I'm going to talk to you about a few different things you can do with the roots. So a lot of times when you go to a page, the page is going to change based on what you type into the actual URL. For example, let's create a new root here. Let's say @views.root. Let's call this /profile, and maybe the profile is for a specific person. So maybe we actually want to go to /profile/ and then whatever the name or the username of the profile is that we want to access. If I want to do that, I want to have kind of like a dynamic URL. I can put inside of angled brackets the parameter for this URL. So in this case, I want this to be a username. So I can say profile/username. Then I'm going to say define, and we'll go profile. The parameter is going to be username. It needs to match the name that you put here. And now what I can do is return render template. Let's just render index.html. And instead of username, let's just say name is equal to username. So now what's going to happen is we will actually just display whatever the person's username is if we go to this root. Otherwise, we will display Joe from this. Now let's go to index.html. Let me just remove age, just so it says hello name now. Let me rerun this script, and I'll explain this again in 1 second. Just want to refresh, go to /views/profile/Tim, and now notice this is going to change and show me whatever I type in here. So if I change this now to be Billy, it shows Billy. So the way you access a parameter that is in the URL is use the angle brackets. You put it as a parameter for the function that is going to return whatever it is that you want. There you go. That is how you can access parameters in URL. Now, what about query parameters? So let's say maybe what we wanted to do is change it. So rather than profile/Billy, we're going to go profile ? And then name equals. So we're going to pass a query parameter. Well, how do we accept those? The way that we accept those is we import something called request from Flask. And then we say that our arguments are equal to request.args. So now what we can do is use this as a dictionary to access any query parameters. So let's say we want to actually get the name. I will say name is equal to args.get name like that. And this will give me access to the value of that query parameter if it exists. So now rather than name equals username, I can say name equals name. Let me just remove this. So now it's just /profile. So I don't need to pass a name. Let's rerun this script and let's refresh. Okay, so now we're going to go to profile name equals Tim. And now notice it says hello Tim. Again, if we change this to Billy, then we get hello Billy. So that is how you access query parameters. If you want to access multiple query parameters, you just repeat this with whatever the name of those parameters are. All right, now I'm going to show you how you can return JSON from this, because returning HTML is great, but a lot of times you want to return JSON. So I'm going to say @views.root. I'm going to say /JSON. I'm going to say define JSON. Actually, probably shouldn't call it that. Let's call it get JSON. And now if you want to return JSON, you can simply return a Python dictionary, but first you need to JSONify it. So what we need to do is import JSONify like that, and I'll kind of show you how this works. So we're going to return JSONify, and then whatever data you want to return, just put inside of a Python dictionary as you normally would. It will convert it to JSON and return it. So for example, I go name Tim, let's go coolness 10. Okay, and now if I rerun this and I access the /JSON endpoint, we'll see that this is returned to us. So let's go here. Let's go to views /JSON, and then it actually gives us this JSON. Now, since we're doing it from the web, it's going to actually show it to us as JSON, or like show it to us on the page. But if we were calling this from, say, JavaScript, it would give us an actual JSON object that we could access. All right, so now we know how to get query parameters, we know how to send JSON, we know how to return HTML. Finally, I will show you how we can actually get data from a request that's incoming, and then I will show you how to redirect and a few other small things. So let's say at views.root, let's go /data. So someone's gonna send us some data in a JSON format to this root. We're gonna say define get _ data. And the way that we get this is we say that our data is equal to request.json. So now what I can actually do is just return the JSONify of the data. So what's going to happen when you go to this root is whatever you send it, it will just return. Now, I'm not going to write anything that will actually send this root JSON, but this is how you access JSON from a root. Okay, so if JSON data is sent to a specific root, this is how you can access it. All right, so the last thing I want to show you is how to redirect. So a lot of times you want to redirect to a different page. The way you can do that is the following. So let's set up a new root at views.root. Let's just go to home, and let's go /. Let's call this function define go to home. Okay, and all we're going to do here is return. We need to import two things. The first thing is redirect, and the next thing is URL _4. So you need to import redirect and URL4 for this to work. And you're going to return the redirect URL4, and then you're going to put the name of the route that you want to redirect to. So notice I'm prefixing this with views. The reason for that is the name of our, template, is views. So I want to put views and then whatever the function name is that I want to redirect to. So if I want to redirect to, say, home, I would go views.home. If I want to go to profile, I would go views.profile, whatever the function name is. So get _JSON, it would bring me there. So let's go to get _JSON. So now when you go to this URL, it will actually bring you to get JSON. Now, I know I said home, but whatever. Let's just see how this works. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go /views /go to home, and then notice it brings me to the JSON. Now, if I change this to be views.home, which is what it really should be, and we go to home, if I spell that correctly, it brings me to the home page. So that is how you can redirect. Hopefully that helps. All right. Finally, last thing I will show you is how to actually add JavaScript to this. So obviously I've just gone through very simple examples, but JavaScript is pretty important. So the way that you can add JavaScript is you can go into your index.html page, and you can, in the bottom of the body, but really anywhere, say script /script like you normally would. You can say your type is equal to text /JavaScript. And then your source is going to be equal to the following. You're going to do two squigglies like this. You're going to say URL _4. You're going to put static inside of a string, although this needs to be a single quoted string. And then you're going to say that the file name is equal to whatever the name of your JavaScript file is, which in this case, I'm going to say is index.js. So hopefully you guys can read that all right. This is our source. And then I'm going to go in my static folder, make sure it's called static, create a new file, call this index.js. And just to prove to you that this is running, I will say console.log and run. So as soon as this script is loaded, it should just say, I am, let's go, running. Okay, so now what I need to do if I want the JavaScript to be loaded is I need to refresh the page and clear the cache. So the way you do this on Chrome is you right click, press inspect, then right click on this little button here, the refresh button, press empty cache and hard reload. Then you can go look at the console. So if you go here to console, notice it says I am running. The JavaScript is indeed running. I'm not going to explain any more than that. You guys can mess around with the JavaScript as you please. Okay, finally, the last thing I'll mention is that the templating engine that is used for Flask is called Jinja, so Jinja. I'll put it up on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about, but it's very powerful and it allows you to do something called template inheritance. So a lot of times you create an HTML page that kind of is the theme of your website, and then you want other pages to be slightly different, but to keep the same theme. So what you can do is inherit all of the HTML from one page and override certain aspects of it. Let me show you what I mean. So here I'm going to create what's known as a block. Now you can create as many blocks as you want, and you can call them whatever you want. But the syntax for creating them is, squiggly bracket, %, and then %, squiggly bracket. You write block, and then you write what the name of the block is. Then you need to end the block. So I'm going to go here and go end block like this. So now this is my content block, and this can be overridden from any template that inherits from index.html. Let me show you what I mean. If I make a new template and I call this, let's just go profile.html. Now, if I want to use this template but override what's in the content block, this is how I do it. I go %, extends, and then this is going to be the name of the template I want to extend. So index.html. And then I'm going to redefine my block. So I'm going to say block content. And then I need to end the block. Oh, it already did that for me. Okay, nice. And then inside of here, I put whatever I want to appear where this block is. So we'll override what's inside of this block. So for now, let's just say h1 and /h1. And we'll say this is the profile page, ! Okay, so now if I go to views, let's make a new view. Actually, for profile, let's just render the template. Profile.html. We can remove all of these query parameters and stuff. We don't need this anymore. So now we're just going to render profile.html when we go to this page. Let's make sure this is running. It is. So now I'm going to go to /views /profile. Brings me to the profile page. All right. With that said, I think I am done. I am officially out of breath. I went as fast as I possibly could. Hopefully this was somewhat helpful and gave you a very quick introduction to Flask, showed you how to very quickly start up a website. Again, if you want more in-depth explanations for all of these things, I went too fast for you. I lost you in this video. I have many other much slower, much more in-depth tutorials on Flask. Again, you can find those from the link in the description. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in another one.